Good evening, everyone. Vicky here from PyLadies and Dublin, and this is our first virtual meetup of the year of 2023. So it's not too late already. I'm still going to say Happy New Year to everyone, and thanks for joining. And for those who will be watching, and if you can't join us this evening, I hope you enjoy the event this evening. We will have Arthur and Uffa speaking for us this evening, and but before we get on to that, I have a few announcements. I want to say, first of all, thank you to the Python Software Foundation, who supports our the meetup page, who pays for the meetup page, because we're on their pro network. Of course, to PyLadies, the global chapters. Without them, we won't have PyLadies Dublin, and Coding Grace, because we are streaming using StreamYard, and Coding Grace is providing paying for StreamYard. So we've been using it for all our virtual events to date. So thank you. So our team, we have myself, I'm Vicky. I'm the founder of PyLadies Dublin, and we've been around since 2013. And we've been running regular events. And we have Lay as well, who normally helps me a lot, but at the moment she can't join us. And then we have Mick, who normally helps me with the background, like clicking on slides when I'm also clicking on them, making it life awfully hard for him, but also moderating our YouTube live chat as well, and monitoring any questions, and he'll be popping those questions up when times for Q&A. And we have Andressa as well, Faladares, who was one of our past speakers last year and ran our first study group. So Python study group. And we would love to do more of these sessions this year. So if you're interested in the study group, let us know. We will. We haven't planned any yet, but we want to do study groups that are kind of outside of the PyLadies Dublin meetup. So we will still have our monthly meetups. Plus, we will have the PyLadies study group as well. So upcoming diversity events in and around Ireland, I've kind of found a few at the moment in Galway. At the end of the month, we have ITAG AI Forum, and then there's and if you're interested in the startup area, Dogpatch is doing the Women's Entrepreneurs Network launch on Friday 27th. And Women Who Code Brighton Brew Online is actually Women Who Code Belfast. They are doing an online lunch meetup on February 9th. And Her Plus Data are kicking off their first event of the year at Workday, and it's going to be in person in Dublin on February 9th. So if there's any other diversity events or any other kind of Python events that are based in and around Ireland and Northern Ireland, let us know, and I'll add it to our next announcements. Email me at dublin@pyladies.com. You can tweet us at PyLadiesDub, but I'm kind of Twitter has been haven't been using Twitter as much the last few days for reasons. So I'll try and tweet something this evening. But first of all, a question: if anyone is using Mastodon, let me know if PyLadies Dublin should set up our own a Mastodon as well. I haven't done it yet, so let me know. I don't use it that often, so let's see how it goes and play by ear. I'm also looking for speakers for next month, so Tuesday, February 21st. If anyone is interested in speaking, it's going to be a virtual event. So we do have 2 or 3 slots from 10 minutes right up to half an hour. So let us know if you're interested. Drop me an email. We do have a form. You can find it on meetup.com or our PyLadies Dublin meetup.com page. There is a link to a form, and if you want to submit your talk details, you can do it through that form. And of course, because we're streaming this and our videos are up on YouTube, it'd be lovely if you can like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Again, this is an old slide. Sorry, PyLadies London is from old slide. Did this again. This happened before. That's what happens when I'm in a rush. Um, Thanks. Yes, and this is our agenda. So so the announcements are quite short. So hopefully I'm way before my time. Uh, so the oops, and I think the slides haven't been updated. Sorry. This if you ignore the Maria Doyle, this is actually completely different. Arthur is going to come first, and then Uffa is gonna come second. I actually forgot to update this. I've updated the slides, but I forgot to re-upload to StreamYard. So my apologies for any confusion. So what I'll do is I will um bring in Arthur when he's available. And Arthur, if you can share your slides, and if Michael, you can also. I'll remove my. I will leave it. I'm not going to touch anything. Mick will do all the changing. And if you can share your slides, Arthur, we will add them to StreamYard. Um,
Hi, Vicky.
Hello,
Thank
Arthur.
you. Hello, thank you. It's good to be here. I'm glad to be part and to contribute whatever I can
Thank
for
you,
this
Arthur.
community.
Yeah. Right. I will hand you over and leave you the floor is yours. And thank you. Here's Arthur about mitigating bias in AI. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Happy New Year for everyone. I'm Arthur Lubambo. I'm director of engineering at Inclusio and also co-founder. So the ones that who know, like Inclusio is a diversity inclusion platform. Like we help the companies to be more inclusive and to understand the diversity that they have in the organization. So, uh, like today, I'm going to talk about a topic that I'm quite interested about is about bias and how we can mitigate them in AI. Uh, and it's a quite challenging topic, and it's I'd say it's a never-ending discussion. Once we have more and more new technologies coming, new approaches, and each new algorithm that we have a new model, and so it's I'd say it will be a fresh topic in even after many years that we will be here. Okay, so let me go for the so I'm Brazilian, but I live here in Dublin, in Ireland. Like Inclusio is an Irish startup, but they have Brazilian a Brazilian taste on the end. Like there is some Brazilian people there. I'm dad of a little boy. I love maps, and I'm a music lover. Like I like to play instruments and like listen music. So just to give you a brief introduction about myself and the pronouns that I used to that I present myself is he. Uh, and yeah, let's talk about bias. So what is bias? I start with this slide that is with the definition of bias, and I gonna read exactly what it is. Like, it's an inclination or prejudice for or against one person or group, especially in a way considered to be unfair. That's the first definition. It's more general. It's not too related to technology, in particular or AI. The other one also goes to that direction. Is about the statistics. Is a systematic distortion for statistical results due to a factor not allowed for it in its derivation. It was a little complicated when you read like this, but what it means that when we have a distortion factor that make the results or the process towards the results to not represent the 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 object that we are studying, the population that we are studying. So they also have the verbs against to create that things. And I'm going to apply this concept in AI, in data science. And the first question is why it's important to consider that. And I put three main reasons for that. The first one is to being fair. So we have if we have a model that treats people in an unfair way or deal deal with synchronous in a unfair, we are make the bad impact in the world. So if and we can see many applications of AI in the world today, from like insurance, from to have credits approved or not. So if the people and the professionals behind the creation of that AIs, being algorithmically or being through machine learning or through any other technique, if you don't take it to be fair, we are making the world we are making the we are creating a division in the world about, even with good intentions. If you don't pay attention in the details of that, you might be impacted uh, like in a scalable way badly for the people. So the good thing is to be fair, also to have better results. So if you aim to do something and you don't realize that your data set or it's being biased and you don't know how to deal with that, you you end up with a model that it doesn't work, it doesn't generalize well, it's not robust. And bring us to the next level, the robustness. So even if the things goes well, like we always have odd scenarios where the data that we train, when we apply in the real situation, in the real world, it we have some special case that the is likely different from what we had, and if all models are not robust, they might absolutely fail. And I will show some examples, some of bias, and how we how we gonna like how can we mitigate them. So I divide the here in types of bias and of the origin of bias. One is in the data collection, another one is in the data processing. And this list that I'm gonna show you is not a like there are a lot of examples, but if you pay attention, you might discover much more other cases or variants of these cases that I'm going to show you in uh, your current daily life as a data scientist, or like any other place that you're going to use that. So for the data collection, we need to, the key things here is to reflect how the data is collected. We need to reflect, does it represent the reality that we are in, the context that we are and the reality, and what kind of things might affect the distribution of the data. So anything, I encourage all of you to, you have a new problem to apply data science, think in these 3 points. What is the difference? What are the distance between the reality and the data that you have in your available for you to do your models? Investigate, check deeply how it was collected, because you're gonna have good insight and you're gonna understand what are the source of bias that might exist there. And need to drive everything from right conclusions, because if you don't know how it was collected, if you don't know well if it represents or not, how well it represents the reality, you might take wrong conclusions. And what kind of things might affect the data, the distribution of the data. So have these 3 things in your mind when you start a new project, and you're gonna have good results on that from that. So the first basic one is data sampling bias. So I give example. um, in Brazil, we had a application that the people could report criminal events, like if there is any incident, they could report, like some assault, some robbery, they could report that. The thing that the reality of the things is not what the people will report. So the report is just a tiny fraction about things, and they had a lot of bias around that. Why? Because the people that had access and they know this application and they report it, there is a long journey between know that that application exists, report it, and have access to that, to the resource enough to to be able to report it through that application. It's absolutely a big barrier. So what happened that they have lot of areas that it is very known that is very dangerous there, but there was no incident report in that areas. So it it absolutely, the data that they had there, they are good for some application, but they are not good as an indicator if a region is good or not. So here, this example, this image, you can see clearly that they have a circle with the represent the population, and a technique that doesn't cover and get a good sample of the population. So thinking about that, that is a way for you in your application for lists all the population and be able to sample that and gather that data, if there is a way to do that. If you have already a data that is biased and you cannot collect more data around that, you can do a resampling inside your data, fixing the distribution that you know that is not reflective. So you can get indicators about good indicators about that population. If you're talking about people in Ireland, you can get something regarding the census and try to normalize the distribution that you have in your sample to start to train your data set from that. So it this small care in the pre-processing and the treatment of the data will make a huge difference. Something that is related what I was talking also about is about survival bias. Survival bias is a journey that the people, they might be like a user have using a platform, and you have lots of data about that, and you're extracting insights. If there is a journey around that, we might have people that are gonna be loose in that journey. So you, in some stage here, 1 2 3 or 4, like you might be talking about a sample of the people that survive the whole journey until that point. So the answers or the distribution that you have of data on this thing doesn't reflect the population that you have initially. It just, we just know about the data that from people that goes through this whole journey. And what is dangerous, I don't know if any of you have already passed in a situation where you got the data like from a relational database, you dump all the data and you start the training, and then you, whoa, got brilliant results, and you say like, whoa, they're being too good, even 100%. And then you realize that like maybe some of the fields here that you are using for in your model as a feature, they are collected on the end of the journey that is after the target event that you want to be tracking, like as example. So the presence of the missing field or not also might introduce a bias on the data, and that's why you need to investigate how the data was collected, what are the journey, check in a temporal way, did the like these fields are populated like immediately, or there is a series of steps where, oh, usually the people fill this form and then they go this and they interact with this other form, and so on. So understand well the history and the events involved to populate your data set. That will make a huge difference. So in the good scenario, you realize it because it's too good, and you go, you train your data set, you have your functions, your evaluation functions working, and the metrics are nice, and you might have something that is, oh, doesn't sounds too good, and you, if you got it, that's good. The bad thing is when you don't get it, you add this bias and you put your model in real life in production and it doesn't perform well because the data that you are using is not presenting the right stage of the process. So it's quite essential to understand this journey. The other source of bias in the data collection is the data annotation bias. So how do you annotate your data? And if you have humans involved, you might embed the human bias against the some particular classification or or some particular label that the people put in the instance that you are trying to 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 train your data model. So there are some techniques that it could use is to have not just one single person to annotate the data. You have a journey where you get a set of diverse people, and you let the same example follow different people to do something that they capture do it, like the when we do the the recapture from Google, they show images, and we are labeling the data behind it. Even the people, some people doesn't know, but if they trust in just one person, they like what did that person say. It might not be very trustable, that label, but if you have a good sample of people that make that data annotation, it's a good indication that their annotation is right. And if there are many like they are not converging into a consensus, it's good to check what is behind it. The other source of bias for it's very common in image mainly is that the data sets, they have a particular positioning for the face. Some data sets, they don't have any cover, like any obfuscation around the on the data model, sorry, in the data set. Also, they have difference of, like, they have a bias in the illumination. They have always the same background, the same illumination, the same contrast. So it's quite important you understand. So if you want to train well your data, make sure that you have you you can augment your data, do data augmentation, playing other layers, changing contrast, applying rotation, applying translation of the data, of the images, to make sure that you are, like, you are not sensible against that, other against contrast, against things that doesn't matter for the classification that you are talking about. So on the end, you're gonna have a bigger data set to train, because you transform these, I don't know, a couple of thousand images into 10 times, 50 times, 60 times more, whatever you decide to do this transformation. And on the end, you got a much more robust model, because you are not doing, you're not biased against that. Uh, Also, there is other type of bias, that is the social desirability bias. It's related to, I give example, if you have some context, there are very sensitive topics about usage of drugs, or I don't know, some social behaviors that the people don't feel, depending on the way that the data is collected, it's useless, because the people would be embarrassed to answer the question honestly. So there are techniques that you can make sure that the confidentiality around the process, so the people would feel more comfortable in the way that the data is collected. So be aware about that when you consider your data. There is any social disability behavior in the data collection that might affect the quality of the data, so just check it. One simple technique is to ask them if you know you can mix with questions in the way that when you collect the data, questions that are non like non-sensitive with sensitive, and they have the same kind of answer, yes, no, and let's a random event determine if the person are answer one question or other, and you don't know what question the people are asking, and the people, or put something that the people can put the votes, like, and be more private. So all of this might affect the data, depends on the context, and see. The other one is UI usability bias. So when you're presenting the data, we have like the forms, the order of the options, the number of options. If they are too big, too small, they might affect the answer distribution. And so it's interesting to see, and always be challenging your data, how it was there, and if you have access to the forms, and try to assess if that particular way to ask is being, it's adding some particular bias on the question A, B, or C, whatever. Also, I'm going to cover the other techniques. So we have some bias that we might insert or might fix in the data processing staging. So the thing that we have when we have unbalanced data sets is very common in neural networks. The TIC approach, we are undersampling, oversampling in order to have a balanced data set, at least not for training purpose. So the neural network don't get, okay, I got it. It just show the major class and not ignore the instance on the small class. So you train to the neural networks. This is quite standard, so I'm not focused on that now. What I'd like to highlight on this one, you need to be sure that you are evaluating your model well. So go beyond your target class, but go to the protective characteristics. So if you want to do something that is focusing in, like give example, in approve or not something, or detect if something is malicious or not, or do some trial, some screening in someone about go or not go. Your target is go not go, and they have this, but it's important for you to understand what are the protective characteristics. Is might be gender, might be race, might be age, and you want to make sure that your model is not biased against that. So the first thing absolutely is to check the distribution of in your data set about these protective characteristics. Sometimes it might be challenging because you cannot ask the question directly, or you don't have that question. So it's good to find what are the parameters that correlate with that characteristics, and you make sure that you have a well distributed, not just over these two categories, like the class measured class in the target class, but also in the other protective characteristics class. So you make sure that you have a good sample in size for all of the categories, all of the groups that you want to be fair. Also, you need to embed in the evaluation of your model, just not accuracy, precision, recall, like not just that. You need to do it per protective characteristics. Ideally, if you have even more data, it's good to see the intersectional. So you don't see just against gender, or you could see also against gender versus race, gender versus age. And if you are able, of course, sometimes the data is not enough to do that breakdown, but if it's possible, do it and incorporate in your evaluation, so you make sure that your model works well for different things. And the other part is to define clearly what is the fairness criteria that you are following in your model. So you might decide that in this context, it should be equally distributed, the true positives and or the true positive rate on, and true negatives, the over the protective characteristics. So you might have a model that we have different thresholds to make sure that we have a balance in a well-distributed sample over the positive and negative target categories that you have there. So that's quite important. The other processing things that I'm concerned about time, I need to run. The other thing that it's important is to use a good data visualization. It's another source of bias. So here's an example about US elections. There is a funny joke that the lands don't vote. So if you put just a map if the cities and the results and states, whatever, it's gonna falsely indicate that the red one is the winner, but actually what matter that we have high density populations in some areas and very low density population in other areas, so people that vote, so this data visualization represent and don't give any false cognition that this the red is winning, and here the it showed clearly that the blue is winning, not the red one, and show actually even more balance. It's not as predominant here. The other thing is the outlier treatment. Is important to choose the right methods. I here give an example mean and median. So if you have outliers in the features that you have, choose well the what are the when you have relationships one to many, you need to choose what you're going to use to aggregate. You're going to use max, mean, median, or whatever, to avoid the outliers affect already a lot your model and your training. The other thing that is quite important is the overfitting is a type of bias inserted also in the thing that it works quite well in your training, um, even your validation like might work, and your tests and in the real world doesn't work at all. So like the traditional way to do is, oh, you do the training, and into each epoch you check the validation. If the validation starts to increase, you stop the training. That's the traditional way. But what I see that is a good way to see is that if you see the number of instances that you have in your data set and you divide by the number of parameters, this ratio is a very good indication about overfitting. It means that if you have a lot of data set with 300 instances with X features, and you want to train a model, and you add like 1,000 parameters in that model, it means that your model is able to memorize each instance that you have in your training data set and not learn anything. Basically, you are giving too much freedom for your model to learn. So check this ratio. Should, like, my practical way, I would suggest like it should be above 10 to have a good ratio around that. So you can upfront, even without training, validate to check if you are susceptible to be overfitting your data. Just analyzing the model, if it's a neural network, if it's a whatever model you have, check how many parameters and degree freedom degrees it have to learn, and compare with the number of instances in your training. It's a very insightful if you're analyzing that with that lens. The other source of base in the data processing, when you are using like without assess or without critical mindset, other models, pre-trained models, and adapted that for your model. So it might be from word embedding. So you might get a biased word embedding, and or like any like deep learning pre-training model. So be sure that if you are using them, you have ways, as I see, to evaluate your fairness criteria, your protective characteristics, and evaluate your model against these things. Otherwise, you might be embedded accidentally this bias in the models. And that's so. Thank you. And I'm not sure if I break the time, but that's it.
Thank you, Arthur. So what we'll do is, yeah, if we have any questions, you can post them here. Yeah, we'll ask them after. Maybe we'll bring in give her talk if you can share your screen first, and once that's set up, we will pop that up. Um, and thank you, Arthur, again. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
in a
Thank
few
you.
minutes. Yeah, and so that was Arthur. This is the updated slides. As you can see, this is what people were meant to see earlier on. So we have Uffa, who will be talking about update nested serializers field with Django REST framework. So if we're good to go, hello, Uffa. Good evening. You're calling. Oh, you're on mute.
Hi, I'm not on
Hello.
mute. Right.
It's great to have you here virtually. I know you're calling all the way from Amsterdam, right? So thank you again. And Arthur is based in Dublin. So I will hand you the floor, and here's Uffa with her talk, updated Nested Serializers view with Django REST framework. Enjoy.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Vicky. I'm extremely pleased to be here. My name is Uffa. I'm a junior Python developer at Hedgehog Lab based in Newcastle, UK. I'm also a community builder that is passionate about digital inclusion. I'm the co-founder of Digital Grassroots, a youth-led nonprofit aimed at increasing the bridging the digital divide between underrepresented communities in tech and through digital literacy and mentorship. And yeah, today I'm going to be doing a coding session where I talk about an issue that affected me or I came across when I was using Django REST framework once. I would introduce Django REST framework for backend development using Python, and I'll showcase how we can use it for building APIs to create, retrieve, update, and delete data for an app. I would showcase how we can use relationships like a foreign key relationship, also known as a many-to-one relationship, and use this with Django REST framework. And finally, I would showcase how to update the fields that have been created in the application. And all of this would be shown soon. Just a bit of housekeeping first. Everything is beginner friendly. You can ask as many questions as you need and share suggestions and comment opinions as well. 100% welcome. The full code is in GitHub. I would literally just be pulling from GitHub, so we would not be writing a lot of things from scratch, but I'll talk through everything. And at the end, I will share all the important links to that we'll be using today. A bit of a prerequisite. You need to follow with this tutorial. You need to be a bit familiar with Django and using it to deploy an application and running it locally and testing API endpoints on Postman. I would still showcase that, and basically using PyCharm as an IDE for coding. So as an introduction to the project that we'll be working on today, imagine that we are building an application that stores data for employees in a database. And the data that we will be storing are the employees' first names, their last names, and their employment dates, and also a certification that is associated or related to every employee. The certification has a name and an expiry date. So every employee can have a certification, but a certification cannot exist without an employee. And that is how the foreign key relationship would work. And we would be using Django REST framework to build the entire project. So the first thing that we're going to do now, let's literally just jump into it, is to get our terminal up and pull the code from GitHub. I'm going to copy this command right here and then get my terminal window up. And in the directory where I want this project to exist, I would post this here and pull that to clone the repo. And that has been done. Opening my PyCharm IDE to open a new project and navigate to my desktop where I have the repo already set up there. And then I can open it. A bit of promotion for PyCharm. I absolutely love it for running any kind of Python related project. It is 100% usable. It has a nice terminal and it has loads of inbuilt functionalities for helping you to code with Python. And yeah, this is opened up already. The first thing here that we would do is to activate a virtual environment. A virtual environment is where we would install all the dependencies that we would be using to run this application locally. Like I said, everything has already been done, and I'll share links to everything at the end of the code. Still going to do a bit of copy paste here since I have written all of this out and I really want us to move really fast. And yeah. So first things first, to create the virtual environment, Python 3, sorry, VM. I would call the virtual environment VM as well. Okay. Waiting for that to set up. Okay, so that has been created, and then I would activate it using source, and in the directory where it's supposed to be, VM bin activate, and it has activated. Now I would install 3 packages that would need to run this application. I would copy them from here. That would be Django, Django REST Framework, and .env, because I have I use a virtual place to keep some of my secret keys. Okay. So that's the first one. While that's downloading, I would install the second one, which is the REST framework. Okay. And while that is done, I would do the last one. Okay. And now, yep, that is done. I'll open another window and just navigate to the directory that I want to work from. And I would run the application locally now. Python manage.py run server. Sorry, I didn't. That is not typed properly. Okay. Oh, sorry, I've not activated my virtual environment in this place. Source.vm /vm bin activate. Again, another error. Because not working in the proper directory, cd /ls. Okay, now run this. Now this is up, and then I would run our server. Navigate into the appropriate directory. And now that should work. So I'm going to copy this now and test this on Postman quickly. Already have this up here. So because I've been running this for a while, I have some data that dummy data that I've already created for this application, and it shows here the first name for an employee, the employment date, and the last name, and also some certifications that have been associated with this employee. And we're going to just quickly create an employee now. Open up a new tab. I'm going to copy from here so I don't have to type again. And changing this to a post request. Coming here, raw data, changing this to JSON, and putting my curly brackets, I'm pasting this here. So I'm going to call this employee Uffa after me. And for my last name, I'll give myself Sam. I like the name Sam. And yeah, so this is all. And I can send this. Didn't put the URL. I'm going to copy it from here. Send. And so it has created. So now we've seen that we've created an employee, but the employee doesn't have any certifications. Before we continue, I'm just going to talk through the code that we have here currently in this repo. Okay. So if you enter, the first thing that we look at here is the URLs and the Py file. And for our project, we have a URL to list all the employees. We have one to list the certifications, and then we have one to retrieve the a particular employee. And in our models.py file for the employees, like I said, we have the first name, the last name, and the employment date. And for the certifications, we have the name of the certification, the expiry date, and the employee that it relates to. The next file that we look at here is our api.py file, which uses the Django REST framework generics view to bring out the different views for the API request. This is for the certifications, and this is for the employees list create view and the employee retrieve update view. I've dropped a link to the Django REST framework documentation where you can read all about this. The important thing here for us right now is the serializers.py file. In this file here, we can see where we had to override the create and the update method. We had to do this because if we did not override these methods, if we create the employee without doing this, the certification would not be created for the associated for the related employee. And that is where the bug or the issue usually lies. If you try to just do this directly, like how we've done here for the employees, you would realize that each time an employee object is created, there would not be an associated certification for that employee. And then for the overriding the create method, I use the transaction dot atomic decorator here, so that if any issues occur while creating the employee and we have not completed creating an employee, it would not save halfway through. And that's just the basic way of explaining what that does. And then here it takes the on line 21, we take the certifications for the in the request, we get the certification, and if that exists as stated in line 24, we use that to create a certification object for each certification that has been put there. Going down to the update method, again, we check for the certifications that have been included in the request and use that, if it exists, use that to update to get the certification ID that already exists for the employee and then update that. If that is not there, it creates an entirely new certification for that employee. So going back to Postman now, and because of time, I'm trying to be really fast. Going back to Postman now, I'm going to try to put a request to view all the certifications that I have. I'm just going to do this in another window. /certifications. I hope I typed this properly. Yep, so this gives us all the certifications for an employee. We know that the employee that we created doesn't have a certification. So I'm going to get the ID and try to update that for the employee. I should have copied this first. So here, opening another window, changing this to a put, well, let's start with the get request, and then getting the ID for the employee. This is going to retrieve the particular details for the employee. And yes, still no certifications, but we want to update this right now to change that. I will change this to a put request, change this to put somebody, raw data, change this to JSON, and in here, curly brackets, I can put in the certifications for the employee that I want. So let me give this employee this certification. Trying this out, certifications, this, and I send this. Oh, sorry, this this didn't close this, yes, send. Now this employee has been updated me, and I've given myself a certification. So yeah, to round up, I think that you should definitely try this out and see how it works for you if you're able to make this request with Postman. And also you can I've put the links to the documents here. I would share this with Vicky and she can make all of this available to you. I also wrote a very detailed blog that tells you how to build the entire application and try out making the request to see if you can create employees, update it, delete, and perform those kind of API requests. The link will be made available to you. And also the Django REST framework documentation talks so much about how you can view, how you can use the different generic views. If I skipped over that too fast, please go and read all of this in the docs. It's all there. At this point, I think I'm going to stop. So if there are any questions, yeah, we can take them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Uffa. That's great. Probably Arthur, are you about? We'll bring you back as well. So thank you both for your talks. So and well done. Live coding is not easy. That's all I can say. Can't really shout like change that.
You're very brave, Uffa.
Yeah.
You're very brave.
So
yeah,
very good.
each time I'm live coding, and I usually use that as an experience. So if something goes wrong, I have to be like, oh, what's going wrong, and then use that as a talking point.
Yeah.
I wish you have your calm. Like, oh yes. Very good.
So if anyone have any questions, as I said, there's one thing is people might also rewatch the videos, so I do also ask people to reach out to me at dublin@pyladies.com if you have any questions for either speakers, both present and past as well, to email them to me and I will follow up with the speakers, and I will put the questions and answers on the Meetup page, and I also do a post event write-up as well, and I post it up there as also. And of course, with the slides and the code, I will put them up on our PyLadies Dublin GitHub to share it out to people. It's just easier. I just found that I said, why didn't I just put all this information on GitHub and just share it to people? So that's what I've been doing from the last few meetups. So again, so I saw a comment there. Yeah. Ram says, I wish I was brave enough for live coding. Same here. It's one thing about live coding when you're trying to teach a class or something. It's another doing it live streaming and being captured on video doing it as well. But it is great to show people, that you can your thoughts as you make mistakes and you go back. Panic or no panic, but you can be fixed.
It's always fixable because every error message is information that is useful to a developer. So it's just about reading that and correcting yourself.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I think with Python and the errors tend to be very explicit. So, as you come across, you should see errors a lot, or else you're not learning, I suppose. I think that there's not many questions this evening, but as I said, reach out to me and I'll reach out to the speakers, and I will update I just really post event message. Definitely, I will put it on the Meetup page. I will put it on GitHub, the GitHub repository with the links and the docs and the presentations as well. And if people want to, they can just add an issue saying, "Oh, I want," even just pop it in an issue on GitHub, and you can keep me updated, contact us on me on that, and I can update those issues as well. So many forms of asking questions, but as I said, we are actually just before half, and I was actually giving extra time just in case. So if not, I'm actually okay with wrapping up early if it's okay with Arthur and Uffa. If anyone else online have no questions, if not, we will have a 4 minutes early evening to enjoy. I will, as I wait, I will first thank you again and Arthur for your time this evening, and thank you everyone who joined us. And I hope everyone enjoy the event. And thank you everyone who's joining, and all the thanks. Yeah, we do appreciate everyone's support, especially this is the first event. And by the way, next, as I said, next month is a virtual event. In March, it could possibly be an in-person event. So keep your eyes peeled. I'm working on that with our potential venues. So we're also looking for speakers. So I know people are really looking forward for in-person events. I don't know about you, Uwe, about the community over there. We're doing a lot of virtual stuff, but I'm sure as more people come online for our meet in person, there's a lot of buzz around it, meeting each other and making those connections. So hopefully in the future, maybe like we'd love to collaborate with you, or in the future wherever I drop over to wherever you're based in.
Based in Newcastle.
You're based in the UK, so if ever I'm in the UK, maybe I can give you a buzz and maybe we can do something or meet for coffee and stuff. But again, Arthur, thank you again for your support
Thank
as
you,
well as
Vicky. Thank you.
as well. So hopefully we can all collaborate, meet, and chat on everything we can do from PyLadies Dublin. Just let me know. So I wish you all a very fantastic evening. I wish everyone online a good evening as well. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.